let us know when we're clear. Oh.
Welcome to a very special edition of Jay Leno's Garage. I'm dressed this way because today we're featuring the most important, probably the most valuable car we have ever done in the whole 14 years of doing this program. I think you'll recognize it. I'm here with two members of the Secret Service. Let's bring them in here. Jay Nasworthy, Steve Abel. Come on in, gentlemen. These guys are dead serious, okay? You can't even joke around here. Gentlemen, thank you. Nice to see you, have you here.
Thank you, sir.
As you may have guessed, their job is to protect the President of the United States. This is not about politics. It's not about Trump or Biden or Democrats or Republicans. It's about the President of the United States. And it is an amazing honor to have this vehicle here at the garage. It's built by General Motors. I guess, for lack of a better word, we call it a Cadillac, a very special edition of a Cadillac.
Yeah, built to resemble a Cadillac.
Built to resemble a Cadillac, okay. And obviously there's a lot of things we can't tell you about it, but what they can tell you, you will find out here today. As you see, it's enormous. It's basically a tank, isn't it? It's probably one of the safest vehicles in the world, isn't it?
I'd destined to say it's probably the safest vehicle.
The safest vehicle in the world, okay. All right, well, where do you want to start, gentlemen? Let's see. Massive tires.
Well, the tire's just like a bus tire or a big truck tire.
Oh, it is, it is. It's not a, well, I'm sure it has some run flat capability.
Yes, there's a run flat device.
Right, okay, all right. And this vehicle has been all over the world. It goes with the president wherever he goes, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. We take them with us. We bring two of them with us wherever we go, at least two. We transport them on the Air Force C-17 or a C-5, depending on how many cars we have to bring. And usually for foreign trips, it's multiple C-17s for us to travel overseas.
Now, each time there's a new president, there's a new vehicle, or do vehicles sometimes overlap with the next president?
It varies. We've tried to do it every inauguration, every 8 years. They have probably an 8-year shelf life. The 2001 variety with President Bush, when he was inaugurated, we had that one roll out. President Obama got the Gen 2 version of this, and then President Trump got Gen 3 a little bit later. It was September of 2018 when it was unveiled in New York for the UN.
And when these are taken out of service, are they broken up and disassembled? They're not, they can't be sold. Nobody could buy one.
No, they are destroyed.
Yes. Oh, they are destroyed. So they're not donated to a museum or anything of that nature?
No, sir. No.
Okay, so they destroy it. And, okay, that's interesting. And obviously, there's a lot of top secret stuff we can't talk about.
There is. You know, it's a car. It drives like a car. GM will put a lot of their components into it, so it's the dash is much like a Cadillac Escalade a couple of years ago. The flags at night, we have LED lights that will illuminate the lights or the flags as we go, as we're driving overnight. And then there's, you know, they try to incorporate some stock pieces as well, so it's not so expensive if there's a need to replace them.
Now, when they design a new one, are you guys involved, or is it just the GM designers? Do they come up with their idea? I mean, there's certain things you have to have, correct?
Sure.
You tell the designers that.
Yes, sir. We've got a set of criteria that we try to meet, and then we push that over to GM and we let them do their thing.
Now, whatever they do you go, nah, I don't like that, or is it a matter of?
There's definitely a possibility to tweak things along the way.
Right.
And, you know, depending on things that need to be added or cut, we can adjust accordingly.
And I imagine everybody who's involved in building this has to have top secret clearance.
That's correct.
Does anybody even know who they are, or are they not, we don't know who those people are?
I'm sure.
I mean, you know who they are, but I mean, the
Yes.
general public.
General public will not know who they are.
Okay, and they don't speak about, oh, I'm the one that designed the, and I imagine that's for their own safety as well.
I would imagine so.
Yeah, okay. And how long does it take to develop one of these from when you decide you need a new one? Is it years? Is it a matter of months?
Yeah, it's several years.
Yeah.
You know.
And imagine each year the tech gets stronger, the protection gets better.
Technology is always advancing. You know, we try to incorporate the latest and greatest in everything, but by the time we get it into production, there's better things, so we will just push that off into the next generation.
Now, for people who don't know, one of the very first cars, the Secret Service borrowed, or when Al Capone went to jail, Al Capone had this bulletproof, I think it was a Lincoln.
I believe it was.
Yeah, and so, hey, let's get that for President Roosevelt. I mean, that just, I don't know why that makes me laugh. It's to get Al Capone's car. But that's what they use as protection. It's not like today. It's, you know.
No, yeah, that was the first armored limousine we used was after Pearl Harbor was bombed, when Roosevelt went to the Capitol to ask for the declaration of war against Japan. They used the acquired Al Capone
Hey,
limousine.
why don't we get Al Capone's car? Bob, you know Al.
Yeah.
Give him a call. Yeah, I mean, so it's come a long way.
It has.
I imagine. I get it. And obviously that had bulletproof glass and everything else. But I know it's interesting. I went down when I met President Reagan. His Air Force One was just like a regular plane, a small, 737?
737, I believe.
And it was like, oh, it's just like Travolta's plane. And then you go to the 747 and the Flying Fortress, and it can stay up for weeks or whatever it is. Pretty amazing. I imagine the same thing with this. This has every type of possible protection.
It has robust capabilities.
Robust capabilities. There you go. So I always remember, because I joked about it tonight, you remember Gerald Ford? He was in a President motorcade, and a 16-year-old kid ran into the limo. Do you guys remember that?
I wasn't around for
Yeah,
that one.
that's
So
a little bit before our time.
And I just made me imagine you're that father. I had an accent, Dad. Who'd you hit?
Yeah.
President. What? President of the United States. What? We got jokes for weeks out of that because it was just a kid, little kid who ran the red light and hit the presidential limo. So that's probably the last time anything like that ever happened. Isn't it?
Yeah. So when we take these places, we have agents that go out the week before to do advance work to ensure that the motorcade routes are safe for us to, take the president from the airport to wherever we're going around the town. We rely heavily on the local law enforcement. We've got a great relationship. We try to foster those wherever we go to ensure that nothing happens in their cities because we don't want to create an issue for them, but also to allow us to impact the citizens of the city to the least amount as possible, even though we know we're going to disrupt traffic and everything else.
Right.
So we send them out a week in advance. They work very, very close to develop primary routes, alternate routes, hospital routes, trying to go everywhere we can. And then inevitably something happens and the sequence of events will change. And so
Right.
all of the routes you had going from 1 to 2 to 3 now becomes 1 to 3 to 4 to 2. So you have to go out and run all the routes again. So our transportation section agents that are doing these advances are constantly challenged. They do great work. We try to ensure that there's no issue that is not covered. And
I mean, it's amazing when you think back the 50s and 60s. Truman, Eisenhower, Kennedy, they rode around in open cars, just waving at people because it didn't seem like anything like that was even possible. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. The idea of riding in an open car now,
not happening.
not
have
happening,
that.
not happening. Now, in the press, they refer to this car as the Beast. Is that a term you use internally? Is that something the press came up with, or is that?
I'm not sure who coined that to start.
Yeah.
We call it a parade limousine.
Right.
It's considered a parade because the windows are extended so that people that are out on the street can see the president clearly.
Okay, all right. And any significance to the flags?
The flags are basically, this is our standard way that we present them every time we go out. When we go overseas, we replace the presidential flag with the host country flag that,
Oh, okay.
that we're visiting.
Okay. I see. And different flags mean different things, or is that pretty much the standard?
That is the standard run that we will do with all of our flags.
Right, okay, very good. See, a lot of this looks like standard GM stuff, like the mirror and a few other things, but
Yeah.
Most of it is.
most of
Headlights, mirrors.
You can't get anything out of these guys, I tell you. I mean, it's just massively overbuilt. If every car GM made was built like this, you'd never need a new car because it doesn't break or break down. I know it's a presidential seal here. I thought it'd be a little bit bigger.
It's low pro.
Low profile. And believe me, when you think low profile, this is the car. Now, something I've heard, and I did see it for myself, but we can't show it to you on camera. The presidential seal inside the car has some wood around it, and there's some significance to that.
There is. The wood that surrounds that seal is from a tree that George Washington actually planted in Fredericksburg, Virginia. He planted 13 trees between his mother's house and his sister's house so that they would have some shade to walk under while they went between each other's homes. He planted one for each of the colonies. In 2004, the last tree succumbed to old age. It was planted for the state of Georgia. So it was harvested, and then that wood was used as the inset for all of these doors. So it's a horse chestnut tree. And so there's 3 seals in the back of the car. One on each door, and then one in between the seats in the back. Now the seal itself, there was a bit of lore behind this. We've been told that it was a single woman that hand-stitched all of the presidential seals that went inside the limousine. Well, she passed away just before these cars came out. So what they did is they took one of those patches, scanned it in, and then laser etched it onto titanium. So that's what is inset.
Oh, very cool. And how about that cherry tree you chopped down? Whatever happened to that one? Remember you couldn't tell a lie?
I don't think that was the one that he
No, that
cut.
wasn't the one. Okay, well, just throw it in there for thing. But it is funny that it's so low key, because usually you think it'd be the president. It looks very cool. And they're always black, aren't they? Have they ever been any other color?
Not since we've started making.
Okay, but I
We
don't
do
think.
have a few Camp Davids that are a different color, but
We do have Camp Davids that are silver, I think.
Now, when you say Camp Davids, what does that mean?
Those are what we have as suburban platforms that are presidential limousines. So it's more of if we are going on an off-the-record movement, we want to be a little bit more low profile, we'll use those instead of pulling these out.
I think I rode in one of those when I was with Vice President Biden once.
Quite possibly.
Yeah, that's great. So I see. Okay, and I imagine those are built to pretty much close to the same standard as these.
They are built substantially
Robust.
as well. Robust.
Robust.
they are robust.
They're built robust. Is there a sun? There's no sunroof. Is
No
there?
sunroof.
No. Hey, you can't get a sunroof. Ah, I'm not running for president. Oh, very nice. Okay, and these windows do not go down, obviously.
They do not.
And obviously, I'm sure they could take anything you could throw at them, pretty much. And I know we can't talk about, but yeah. And obviously, you've got every conceivable type of air conditioning, air filtration, and all that kind of thing.
You do stay comfortable. The seat that he rides in, those rear 2 seats, they are heated and cooled. They have massage function in them. They slide back and forth. So it's not a bad way to ride for a little bit.
But if he goes through the drive-through, he can't get a Wendy's single patty.
No, we'd have to send somebody else.
Have
up
to
to
send
grab it.
somebody else. 'Cause when Clinton was president, that was probably a big problem. He couldn't get a Wendy's single patty through there, and that would be the end of that. All right, and the wheel covers, it just look sort of like standard Cadillac wheel covers, but I'm sure there's something very special about them too, and we can't discuss that either.
Not really.
Not really.
They're just bolt-on wheel covers,
Yeah.
just to make the wheel look nicer.
Well, here's a question. Are there follow-up vehicles that carry spare parts or things that possibly could go wrong? You know what I'm saying?
So we have the follow-up Suburban that the shift agents ride in. They have a few spare parts in there, oils and antifreeze,
Mechanics
belts
that,
and hoses.
are there mechanics that travel with the car?
So yes, I'm one of the mechanics that
Oh,
travels
okay.
with the car.
Okay.
Yeah. So if anything happens, I'm going to address it and hopefully get it back on the road.
Yeah, 'cause you really can't pull us into the Jiffy Lube.
No,
No.
not usually. We have been known to use facilities if we need to, but
Right.
typically there's not enough time. If he's just on the ground for several hours, you're just kind of.
And I imagine the amount of checking that must go into verifying every single part and every single person who brings every single part. I mean, that's literally what's involved, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, if you're going for gas, well, who's pumping the gas? Where's the gas coming from? The gas is, I mean, just every possible care is taken in every area, probably.
We try.
Yeah.
Sometimes, we have to go to the local gas stations, and occasionally things will happen. We were, on a trip to North Carolina, and apparently had rained for several days before we got there, and I guess one of their tanks absorbed some water.
Oh.
And so we pull in, fuel up, and as we leave, one of them shuts off, and I get a call, on the radio, hey, one of the cars is shut off. So it has a auxiliary fuel pump, so I had them, apply the auxiliary fuel pump to see if that was, a bad fuel pump or something, and it didn't help. So I was pretty much thinking it was the gas, and so we got the vehicle off the road and ran a few quick diagnostics on it. Didn't see anything wrong with the actual car. pulled a fuel sample, and yeah, it looked like muddy water out of a river.
Wow.
So
Okay.
luckily, we were close enough in North Carolina that they were able to deliver another car down on a flatbed. So went to swap it out, and the next morning we go to, meet the president when he lands, and the door doesn't shut right on the new car. So I ended up having to borrow the part off of the one with bad gas, put it in the new car, and we actually arrived out on the ramp of the airfield as he was approaching. We had about 2 minutes to spare.
And this is the first anybody's heard that.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's all human, isn't it? But obviously every precaution is taken with this thing. And how many miles a year would you put on something like this? Is that something you could say? Is it in thousands or hundreds of miles?
It really just depends on how far we're having to drive to go to the different sites.
Right. When
how
you
much
get
we're
in,
traveling.
obviously you fly everywhere.
Correct.
But are there places where the president might be in a car like this for hours and hours? Is that something that's never even considered?
No, the only time he's ever in for an extended amount of time would be if we took the bus out. So we've got the armored bus as well.
Right.
That's a campaign year sort of thing to where we have to advance that and then get guys trained up on CDL licenses so that they can drive the bus. But those are really the only times that it's extended amounts of time in the car.
And how about you guys? Are you guys military background, then went into Secret Service? Were you law enforcement, or did you go right from college right into Secret Service? How did you get? Is that something you can talk about?
Sure. I graduated from Florida State with a master's degree. Had hopes of going home and working for the Orlando Magic, but that didn't work out. So a friend of mine was on Chelsea Clinton's detail, and he told me that we're hiring a bunch of new people. So I applied, got the old typewriter out and filled out the application and got hired on.
And that's got to be I mean, if you got a joint in your sock in 1969, they know about it.
They definitely will do a deep dive on you.
I mean, it really is. It must be incredible. How about you? What's your background?
So I was an auto mechanic in a dealership for about 16 years.
What kind of dealership?
Ford and GM both.
Okay. Oh, all right.
And then, so found this job on USA Jobs and applied.
On USA Jobs?
Yep.
Hey, president looking for hey.
Yeah, it wasn't very descriptive when I found it, but turns out it was.
Did it say Secret Service?
Not directly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was kind of more like it was a government agency looking for automotive technicians that had experience. And as soon as checked into it and figured out it was the Secret Service. And
right.
Yeah, I used to be part of the transportation section when I was a new agent on PPD, the President's Detail. And it's a little stressful when the first time you're getting behind the wheel and you look in the rearview mirror and there's the president staring back at you.
Right.
You avert your eyes very quickly and try to look away.
Wow, just like driving movie stars.
Correct.
Wow.
There was one trip we were in Mississippi over the summer and it was crazy hot. We were supposed to drive a quarter of a mile down the road to the landing zone, but right as we got to the site, it was a bad weather call. Weather was coming in, so we had to drive 45 minutes back to the airport. As the president's getting ready to finish up his meeting at the little city council, I'm sitting in the driver's seat and it starts to get a little warm in there. So Steve was actually the mechanic on the trip. I grabbed Steve and I'm like, hey, check this out. And as he comes in and the words, I believe the compressor's dying, the president's coming out at this point. So he gets in the car, the Camp David, and we start driving. And it gets hot in there pretty quick, middle of the summer, and the supervisor at the time had to tell the president that the air conditioning had died. So we continued on to the airport for 45 minutes. By the time I got there, I looked like Ted Stryker at the end of Airplane, just sweat pouring off of me. But we didn't want to stop. We had to keep going, so we made it safe and lived to tell the story.
All right, but obviously the ventilation was going through it, just no air conditioning.
Correct. Just blowing hot air.
just blowing the warm air.
Wow. Well, for a politician, blowing hot air, that's the worst thing that could happen. All right, well, very good. Well, I mean, it's a very imposing vehicle. When the president is speaking, how many people, you must have a half a dozen people guarding it at any one time.
The shift is around him, and they've all got their own responsibilities. It really depends on where we are and what we're doing as to how they're set up. I can tell you, as a driver, the Generation 3 that we've got now is a lot better to drive than the
Right.
Gen 1 or Gen 2.
Right.
They've definitely made improvements.
Yes.
I can tell you that when the Generation 1, that was the version I was driving, the A-pillar on that thing was so wide that you would lose a police cruiser
Right, sure.
as you're making turns.
Well, I was thinking that too when I saw it.
A lot of blind spots.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of leaning forward to look out the windshield, leaning back to look out the side glass, the driver's glass.
And most of it is parade speed, isn't it? 7 to 12 miles an hour.
No, we like to keep
Yeah.
moving.
Yeah.
We anytime you slow down, you're giving somebody the opportunity to
Right.
do something nefarious. So if we can get him from the plane to wherever we're going safely and as quick as we can, we also try to ensure that the motorcycle police that are with us, if they're leapfrogging around, that we give them a lot of space too to operate.
Right. And imagine the stress on this job, because you're on everything that's happening. You've got to keep your eye out for everything all the time, isn't it?
Yeah, and especially when you're driving down these city streets and there's people left and right all over the place, and you're counting on them to obey the police warnings from the officers that are on the road,
Right.
trying to keep them safe. It's tough to articulate to the local police, how much space we need, because it's hard for us to see out of these cars. So if we can get a little extra space for them, we can keep them safe and keep the president safe as well.
Now, what do you guys think when you watch a movie like Air Force One or any of these movies where these guys are protecting the president? Do you laugh? Is it fun to go, oh, that doesn't happen that would never happen? Get off my plane!
Right. A lot of people always ask that, which one's the most accurate?
Right.
Guarding tests, maybe, for like a small detail.
Oh, okay.
That's a good, fairly accurate one.
Oh, all right. Okay.
But yes, we all do get a good kick out of all of the Secret Service.
And do you all rotate between current president, past presidents, presidential spouses, or do you get assigned to, you're the Obama guy, you're the Trump guy, you're the Bush guy?
So through your career, you'll start in a local field office, do 5 to 7 years hopefully there, and then you come to DC and do one of the big details, if that's what you want to do. You can also go do a former
Right.
president. So you'll do 6 years on the president's detail. During that time, you'll work what we call the shift, the guys that walk around with him. We do satellites between our transportation section, the First Lady's detail, our counter surveillance division. And then you'll go back to the shift and you'll be a more senior agent at that point, and you're starting to do more complicated sites and be more responsible and a leader on the shift.
And people always think it's Secret Service men, but it's both men and women, certainly in the last 30 or 35 years, isn't it?
Yes, we've got a lot of the agents that are on the transportation section now. It's a good solid mix of men and women. They rotate through between the different driving assignments.
Did they send you guys to high-speed driving school to do all that kind of
Sure,
thing?
we go to our protective operations driving course out at our training facility that,
I
that
was
you had
there.
a chance to go
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
So they go through a week-long course. They do the high-speed driving, and then they get the Generation 2 limousine to drive around out there for a little bit to get some practice.
Oh, very good, very good. How long does a driver last? Is it each president you change, or?
Yeah, it's just part of your career path through the detail. So for the transportation section, you are there for 2 years. So you'll start out doing the follow-up driver, so the truck that's behind this car. And then from there, you'll slowly move up to the spare limousine. And then eventually you're out doing advances, and then you're driving the limousine. So it's a 2-year commitment.
Okay. And later today, we're going to see you load this into the cargo plane. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Oh, that's pretty exciting. Very good. Are either of you guys driving it into the?
And I'm responsible for having it loaded and watching to make sure that it's loaded correctly.
And you were very kind to offer us some photographs of this very car being designed, being made in clay and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, GM was able to provide some photos for use here for the program.
Okay, well, we appreciate that. Thank you very much, because, this, you have no idea how top secret this is. It's just amazing. We can't open the doors for obvious reasons. We can't show the inside. But I think you get an idea of well, you see how tall it is. I'm just a hair under 6 feet tall, and it's as tall as I am. So, but I imagine it moves out pretty good, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, right, there you go. Okay. And of course, the Pred is not allowed to do burnouts. So you cannot do a presidential burnout because that would be wrong. Okay. But are we about ready to load it up to the plane?
I think we can do that.
Can we do that? Let's go to the airport now and see how that works. As we watch the presidential limousine get loaded onto the C-17, I want to take this opportunity to say what a privilege and an honor it is to have the Secret Service and the Beast visit my garage. The dedication these men and women give to their country is of the highest order, and they have never stopped learning the lessons of the past to keep America safe. Whether it's poor gas or no air conditioning, these are stories that the Secret Service learned from to ensure they don't happen again. Thank you to the Department of Homeland Security and the Secret Service for this incredible opportunity, and thank you for watching. See you next week.